Ever wonder how gritty and grimy everyday life really is for two-bit gangsters in America? How tedious the grind, and how easily the wheels fall completely off. Crime coverage tends to focus on the bosses, or those fighting to be one. It's usually about big scores, major hits, and clever heists, even when they fail. The gangland characters we mostly hear about at least show some ambition, but most crime isn't like that.
Clear of the closing doors, please.
Mostly it's small-minded squabbles for chump change, quick violence over next to nothing, endless grinding and treachery. It's a life like these guys. 4 men from New York City, Brooklyn in this case. Between them they were surviving on drug deals, hustling and stick-em-ups, until they hit the saddest, lowest rent casino you'll ever likely see. Inside this bootleg gambling spot in Brooklyn, their barely planned heist went so wrong it boggles the mind. The Mob Reporter is back with a gritty story of 4 New York hustlers whose scant ambition flamed out in a spray of meaningless gunfire. This is a story of hoods, greed, and betrayal from the mean streets of the Big Apple. A deep dive with exclusive photos, wiretaps, inside information, and a huge surprise twist at the end. Let me tell you about it. First, let's meet the players. This is Musah Coward, also known by his rap name, General Mecka. He was the driver and apparent mastermind of the crew, even if there wasn't much brain power on display in this job. His right-hand man was Charles Powell, also known as Payback. He had that tattooed on his neck. He was pinned as a gunman. Then there's Brian Castro, a.k.a. Morenaje. I don't know why, but he was one of the gunmen also. And finally, meet Shamel Myhand, known as Lala, a would-be hitman with a long record. He was a robber and gunman too. Now, straight up, one of these 4 end up snitching on the others. Can you guess who? How is your rat radar? Let me know your guesses in the comments before I get to the answer in a couple of minutes. Now, this unraveling crime yarn started back in 2020 when these boys were looking to pull a heist. Coward had gained some clout from his rap videos, where he liked to look ridiculously rich and fiercely violent. But his antics off-screen suggest he was only one of those, and it wasn't the guap. Coward and Myhand had been childhood friends. Myhand had 15 brothers and sisters through various parents while growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn. That was a rough hood, and Coward moved out to Paterson, New Jersey, and they would sometimes get together and drive around, jumping out to rob someone when they got tempted. On one job, a couple of them pushed their way inside a house waving guns and demanding money. They found their target wasn't alone though. He was with his pregnant grandmother. You heard me. She didn't take crap from anyone. And when the bandits grabbed her purse, Granny jumped on Myhand's back, attacking him as he screamed for help. One of his buddies punched her, and she finally let go. In 2018, one of Myhand's brothers asked him to kill a guy in Sheepshead Bay in a beef over a woman. Myhand said he'd do it as long as his brother paid off all his outstanding traffic tickets. The two of them drove to a store where the guy hung out. Myhand put on latex gloves and a laugh now, cry later mask. He walked up to the guy, pulled a gun, and shot him point blank. As a hitman, though, Myhand had problems. He has terrible eyesight, but hated wearing glasses. On this job, his vision was so poor, he only shot the victim in the arm, although he was aiming for his chest. He also didn't see the store security camera pointing right at him. This is footage of it here. You're seeing it now, but Myhand watched it on the news the next night. But let's move along to the slum casino heist. That's the heart of this underworld tale. On the night of the robbery in October 2020, Coward picked up 3 pals in his black Honda Civic, making up a 4-man crew. Up front with Coward was Powell. Castro was in the back. They picked Myhand up last and he climbed into the back seat too. But this wasn't an Ocean's 11 crew. They cruised through Brooklyn looking for a score. Coward's cousin saw them in the car and told them he'd just come from the neighborhood gambling spot where someone had lost $50,000 and said he was coming back with $20,000 more to win it back. It was the kind of lick they dreamed of. They knew the gambling spot well. In fact, Coward and Myhand had already robbed it before, court later heard. It was about 10:30 p.m. when Coward pulled the Honda up to the gambling spot on Hageman Avenue. The plan was for Coward to wait with the car while the others went in. This is not a Las Vegas-style casino. It's the most bootleg of bootleg casinos you might imagine. Customers walked through a reinforced storefront door off the street. Inside there were 3 rooms, one after the other, like train cars. The dice games were set up in the last of the 3 rooms, which opened into a fenced yard at the back. Their customers mostly played CeeLo back there. It's a 3 dice game popular in New York neighborhoods, sometimes called 456. Between the first room and the second room was security, a bouncer named Rodney Maxwell. He was moonlighting at the gambling spot from his IT job at Bellevue Hospital. There was a security camera outside and 1 camera inside, but that one wasn't in the back room, of course. This camera pointed at the front door, capturing everyone who walks in. And that's what we see here. This is the true security camera footage from that night, from both outside and inside. We see 3 guys getting out of the car and slinking up the street and around the corner to where the gambling spot was. Then we see Powell and Castro walk in. Pulling up the rear was Myhand. Myhand pulled his hoodie up before going in and wore a COVID mask to cover part of his face. Powell and Castro sailed on past Rodney the bouncer, but the security man thought Myhand's mask and hood made him look sketchy and frisked him. And that's when he felt the gun on Myhand's right hip. The bouncer said he can't go in the back with the gun, and Myhand said, "Look at all the people back there. There's probably 20 guns in there already." The bouncer asked him to pull down his mask. He said he wore the mask because of COVID. "There's probably COVID back there too," he said. A woman running the joint came to see what was going on and asked Myhand to show her his phone so she could see whether he had a text inviting him to the game. Myhand pulled out the gun instead and then grabbed money out of her hand. When he was putting the cash in his pockets, the bouncer grabbed for his gun. And that started a mighty struggle in the front room. Less than a minute after the 3 men had walked in, this is what it looked like out back. People panicking, scattering every which way. They climbed the fence, jumped in the garbage bin, climbed over each other. For whatever reason, Powell is seen here busting off a bunch of shots. 3 people were hit, but survived. Meanwhile, in the front room, the bouncer had the upper hand. If it had been a fair fight, the bouncer would have won. Castro, however, ran to the front door to escape. He shot the bouncer in the back. But Rodney still held Myhand down. Next, we see a woman casually walk past their life or death struggle and slip out. A minute after Rodney was shot in the back, Powell came into the front room. Rodney tried to grab his gun too. What a tough dude. Powell took a step outside, then turned and shot the bouncer as well. That was 1 hit too many. Even then, it took a while for Myhand to escape. I think his bad eyesight made it hard finding the latch. By the time he got out, the getaway car had peeled away. His buddies didn't wait for him. The next night, they saw themselves on the news. Despite the decent video images and community outrage over the shooting, nothing seemed to happen. In the video, we can even see a distinctive heart-shaped tattoo under Powell's eye. It's a testament to the culture of fear and silence on these streets that he wasn't immediately fingered. If they thought they'd gotten away with it, they didn't realize how methodical police investigations can be when they want them to be. 6 months after the shooting, investigators showed the surveillance video to a veteran street cop. He recognized the first man that sauntered in, and of course it was the face tats that did him in. That was their first big break. If Powell was one of the 4, they still wanted the other 3. New York Police Department investigators scoured video cameras from around the area and tracked the movements of the getaway car. 2 years after the shooting, police linked a black Honda Civic that regularly was seen parking at this gas station in Paterson, New Jersey, to the shooting. Musah Coward had had a traffic stop 7 months before the shooting while driving that very car. That linked him to the vehicle, and he was living across the street from the gas station. Police now had the names of 2 suspects. From there, the plot really started to unravel. Once they had names, they tracked phone data and connected the pair to the others. Police even searched through Coward's accounts under his rap pseudonym. There they found references suggesting he had gang ties to the Bloods, and even published a music video that portrayed a violent gunpoint robbery of a gambling joint. That's what you see here, but the jury would never see that. In June 2023, FBI agents executed a search warrant, allowing them to photograph Powell's face. He must have known that wasn't good. When they searched Castro's phone data, they found a text sent to his girlfriend a week or so after the robbery with a link to the ABC News report, the one on the robbery shooting that contained the video. He texted her, quote, "I gotta start laying low. I can't make no noise, not even a ticket." It was too late for that. DNA was found on the bouncer's body that linked Myhand to the crime scene. Myhand was the first to be arrested for the robbery shootings in August 2023. Myhand admitted he was the man fighting the bouncer in the video, and soon after he agreed to cooperate. So there's your answer to who snitched on the others. It was Myhand. Did you guess right? At age 35, Myhand became the prosecution's star witness at the trial. Powell, Coward, and Castro, or if you prefer, Payback, Mecka, and Morenaje, were indicted for robbery and conspiracy to rob, firing a gun during a robbery, and killing Rodney Maxwell during the heist. Much of the courtroom grilling of Myhand on the witness stand was all about trying to nudge the jury to decide who was the biggest lying dirtbag in the courtroom, the snitch or the 3 accused. The case was hard fought, lawyers were feisty, sometimes the gloves flew off. Then a witness was shot. Late at night, just hours before evidence at the trial was to start, one of the neighborhood witnesses for the prosecution said 3 masked men jumped him and tried to kill him, calling him a rat. They only managed to shoot him in his leg. He survived but was in hospital for weeks as the trial started without him. The witness and prosecutors all blamed it on the accused, although jurors never heard about it. The witness, however, was eventually brought to testify. His evidence was important because he had worked as a confidential informant for the FBI, and he had secretly recorded a conversation with his friend, Castro, after the robbery. Oh, it was incriminating. In the recording, Castro bragged about the robbery and even mimicked the sound the dying bouncer made. Here's part of that recording, exclusive to the Mob Reporter.
No, boys, other hello people. It was hello people in the gamble. We in a gambling spot. You feel me? It's hello people in there. What is you talking about? The owner of that shit, his sister was there that day, and his cousin, you feel me, and the security guard, you feel me? Them two are still right there, you feel me? I didn't really want to do that, but the situation got to that point, you feel me? The situation was, it's a robbery, but like, look, we already got in there. We whip out, we shaking the shit. Get out the door, you feel me? The homie, I try to touch his pocket, he tried to crazy, shot him on crazy. Boom! As soon as I shot him in the leg, and Payback started busting. Brooklyn had like 4 gunshots.
In the end, it took only a few hours for jurors to return their verdict, guilty for all 3 men. That was January 2025, but they still haven't been sentenced, and here's why. Just the other week, they took one last roll of the dice, and it was a surprisingly strong roll. They demanded a new trial and had alarming reasons for it. This is the surprise twist I promised you, and it's one I didn't see coming. Remember that witness that had been shot before trial? It wasn't the accused trying to silence him. It turns out he did it himself. He arranged to have himself shot in a desperate attempt to weasel out of testifying. His plan, defense lawyers claim in court documents obtained by the Mob Reporter, was for him to claim he was either too scared or too badly injured to testify. By the time his lies unraveled, the 3 men had already been convicted. That's delayed the ending of this somber story. The lawyers demand a new trial, saying the witnesses' lies tainted their defense because they didn't cross-examine the witness for fear the jury would hear about the alleged assassination plot and pin it on their clients. We'll have to wait and see what happens next. In the meantime, we can consider this evidence heard at trial and ponder how sleazy and gritty everyday life can be for 2-bit bandits and gangsters in America. Please tap the thanks button to leave me a tip, and give this video a like and leave a comment. That helps juice the algorithm, which helps me a lot. And please make sure you're subscribed to the Mob Reporter with notifications set to all. And thanks for watching to the end.